Hey, so what's going on, everybody out there in YouTube land? This is Ken Pierce from the PiercingMetal.com website. And joining me on this Zoom chat is my good friend Keefy from the Ghost Cult Mag website. And and the sirens, of course, they're coming to take me away. So here's what we're doing. It was about 2 weeks ago. Keith had an idea we're just going to chat on his Instagram live, mostly to show me how it works. Because even though I do a lot of Instagram, as you know, if you follow this profile, I didn't know how to do an Instagram live. So we did this little chat, and Keith started talking about the Piercing Metal website as an interested party because we did celebrate 15 years of PiercingMetal.com back on the beginning of April. So we got to talking about it, and he said, this would make a good, like a story background of what's happened and where you've been and what's come and what's to come. So Keith's gonna lead me by the reins a little bit, and I'm gonna try to make this interesting. I hope you like it. And again, remember, that's piercingmetal.com, and you're watching our official YouTube channel now.
Word. Good to be with you, Ken, always.
Always, man, always.
For those that don't know me, I also am a Denzian of Brooklyn, New York. You will likely hear some sirens in the background from my end at one point, as the grunting joke now with all my interviews and chats and such all over is there's always a siren or always some loud stereo or something. But
it's just such a New York thing.
It is. It really is. In addition to being friends with Ken and seeing each other at shows and being shoulder to shoulder in the photo pit, sometimes being right next to each other for band interviews in the past, all kinds of stuff. Ken, I like to think that Ken has been a huge inspiration to me. I have a long career in music journalism and in journalism and business, period. But I was aware of Ken for a time. I moved away from New York City. I didn't live here for a long time. I moved back to New York City, and since I've been back, Ken and I have actually struck up a friendship. It was a mutual admiration from afar, maybe Facebook friends first, and definitely saw each other at shows and festivals and worked them as press. And then, just got a mutual respect and friendship going on. There's a lot of people in this game. A lot of them don't know how to carry themselves correctly. Ken leads by example. If you appreciate his content and what's great about it, he goes out of his way to differentiate himself from everybody else in the game. There's several kinds of music websites. They're not all motorcycles. We're not all blabbermouth.net. We are different kinds of sites. Some people do news. My website focuses a lot on news and interviews. But Ken goes out of his way. He strives to be original, to be thoughtful, to be respectful of the artists and the labels. We're not doing all the TMZ stuff everybody else does. What does Corey Taylor think is not, I love the guy and I admire him, but I don't need to know every single thing he thinks or says, and I don't need to write about it. All that being said, we do cover Slipknot quite a bit. Yeah, I kind of have to. They are the most important band in the world right now. But, it's been a great pleasure getting to know Ken, becoming friends. There's very few allies in the scene, and Ken is not very competitive. He just kind of in his own world doing Ken, Piercing Metal, and Piercing Ken, Chronicles of Piercing Ken. He's just doing his thing and leading by example, which again is, 15 years of Piercing Metal. There's only a handful of sites around as long, and a lot of them are gone that started when you started. Very few bands even have a URL the last 15 years. A lot of bands didn't for a long time. There was MySpace and GeoCities and, the ancient days of the internet. And, 15 years at anything in business is to be commended, but 15 years in this game, which is a constant grind, everyday work, being plugged in, and, pretty much having a stellar reputation, it says a lot. And so that's why, it's not just that Ken and I are friends and I'm saying nice things about my friend, but I have looked up to Ken. We are peers. We, you know, lean on each other for advice at times, which I'm grateful for. You know, I have run various sites. I've run Ghost Cult for the last 7 of the 8 years Ghost Cult is in existence. I've been there 7.5, took it over after 6 months of being there. And, you know, I hope that when I get to 15, I am, you know, I can say that I have put together a track record like Ken. And you know, probably not, knowing me.
You never know.
As we said, I've gotten into some trouble in the past. I try not to, but I do get, my mouth gets me into trouble. But that's a problem. But yeah, man, you know, I'd like to see more people should be like Piercing Metal and not be like some of these other sites that have, you know, just kind of shown up yesterday and they seem to be laying down the law of what constitutes coverage. It's a long-winded way to say thank you, but thank you.
I do what I can. I mean, like you said, 15 years ago, this was very different, and there were still magazines, you know, and like you had Metal Edge, you had Metal Maniacs, and Metal Hammer. It was not easy to get a copy of Metal Hammer 15 years ago. You had to go to specialty stores. Metal Edge and Metal Maniacs were magazines that we had here, and I will point out that I worked for both of those two magazines at one point in my storied career. I did have Piercing Metal, but they wanted, I did reviews for Piercing, for Metal Edge, and I did photography for Metal Maniacs, which was a lot of fun. So
I'm gonna interrupt and say that is an incredible resume. I mean, I have a pretty good resume, and I have a lot of managerial experience. You know, Ghost Cult started out as an actual magazine. Before Ghost Cult, I was at lesser known, you know, not lesser known. One website was pretty well known, Metal Army America, now defunct since 2012. I briefly was doing news and reviews for Vulgar Display of Blog, which is the present day Wolverine Kills music tour gossip site, the much reviled and loved Wolverine Kills. So, you know, I have a varied experience in music journalism, specific to music journalism. I had a longer career as a professional writer that wasn't in music journalism, but that is an unbelievable resume by any standard to have worked for 2 of the pinnacle magazines in the business and then have your own thing run this long, this good.
yeah, it was pretty interesting because, I mean, I started this by accident. You know, this was started by accident, and it started out with a submission to one of the fan websites that was out there telling news. It wasn't Blabbermouth. It might have been at the time Hard Radio or something. And I had seen Nightwish, and I wrote a few lines down. I was compelled to talk about this band, and they posted it. And about a week or so went by, and it was rife with errors because there was some stuff that wasn't going on here that fans of Nightwish in Finland and in Europe were making note of, and this is all wrong. And I was like, no, it's not. This is what happened. But anyway, I got approached by a website from Spain, and they wanted a longer story, and then he wanted another story and another story. And so I technically became a U.S. representative of a site based out in Spain, and that was back in 2003. I poked around with that for a while, and then I joined another site that was really more prog rock and fusion, and I was doing some metal stuff for them, and then another metal site. I was doing different copy for all of these guys, and one night my friend Joe, after quite a few beers, had said, screw all these other things, it's time for Ken's own brand. And I said, all right. I put that on the back burner of an idea. I had no idea what I was going to call this thing, and serendipity, Piercing Metal did come to me as a name. And what was interesting to me personally was that it wasn't heavy metal this or heavy metal that, metal this, metal that, any sites that were coming, and that's good. I just felt my name is Pierce, and it's so having having a use of that verb of piercing and the word metal just kind of made it a lot of fun. And it was interesting because with magazines still being a hot thing, you really had to convince a publicist to want to work with you at the time. They said, "Oh, this isn't a print magazine." No, it's not a print magazine. "Well, will you ever print an edition?" I said, "Oh, I don't know." I said, I just started this thing. It would be 2 pages long if I printed it at this point. But and there we go. And it started to knock wood steamroll a little bit, you know.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I had kind of the opposite issue, which is that I was writing for myself, and I sent out pitches as I started to kind of was living in Boston at the time. I had gone to journalism school in the 90s and dropped out. And I went back to school in Boston 10 years later, more than 10 years later, for business management. But I was already kind of like getting the itch to write and write about something that I had. You know, I love music. I played in bands myself for a long time, as did you in this city. And, you know, I had the urge to write about music. I used to write little reviews and send like a roundup monthly to my friends over email. Like, here's the records I'm listening to. You should go buy them. I'm going to the store. Let me know if you want me to pick you up any of these. To my friends that didn't have money, can I burn you some CDs from these things? You know, Johnny Satan seed instead of apple seed. I wanted to spread that love around, get my friends, you know, into the same stuff I am, because invariably we were going to go to shows. Sooner or later, we're going to go to shows. And I had a similar experience to you. Metal Army happened to be looking for people. I joined them. And then over the time, as Metal Army went out, I joined Ghost Cult as they had just launched, kind of, not just launched their website, but their website was starting to be like neck and neck with the physical zine. They started out really to have a physical zine and a digital magazine. That was their kind of idea. Let's have a little print magazine locally in Europe. Let's have a digital magazine all over the world, which it did. And I was part of that all over the world. I was, to my time at Metal Army was ending, because Metal Army was ending. And the original founder, co-founder of Ghost Cult reached to me and was like, "Do you want to found the American team?" And I was like, not only can I found the team, I have a whole team to bring with from Metal Army. You know, the opposite was true. There were people who were like, "Do you have a physical magazine?" "Yes, but only in Europe. But still, we have that reach." And for a long time, as I, you know, sort of got ground in the zine, you know, there was an impression for a long time that we were only a European thing, and I was the anomaly weirdo from America. But I already came in with like Boston, New York, LA, Chicago, Phoenix, Florida at one point, Atlanta. I had people. I had a team. Philly. I had a team of people. So, you know, it was a very interesting thing. And, you know, so there's been a shift, definitely a tectonic shift in the whole world, right? Everything is digital. Magazines are fighting for their life. Props to anybody putting out a magazine today, especially hats off to Revolver, because they're doing like a very specific cultured thing that I don't think a lot of other magazines can pull off. And it does work online. They did put out their physical magazine this month during the quarantine, which is outstanding. Congrats. But like, it's hard. There's a lot of websites now. When you started, there wasn't that many.
No,
And like you
not for
said,
metal.
not for
There were.
metal. And even if you want to just throw a blanket over metal and say metal's a lot of things, and you also like rock, and you like classic rock, and you like progressive music, and you know, have other interests, entertainment interests that go beyond just metal. But there really weren't a lot of music websites. And you know, you were one of those astronauts planting a flag, like one small step for metal and one big step for Ken.
I wish I had a little flag to hold up.
Right. And the moon landing was real, people. It was not faked. So, you know, again, it's a whole different landscape 15 years later, right?
It
And
is. It is.
you and I like to say that, you know, I'm gonna let you off the hook and blame myself for this next one,
Uh-oh.
but
Uh-oh.
no, it's not. it's just what's reality is. So there's, let's say 50 top music websites in the world, or 100 top music websites in the world. 75% of them are rap and pop music and indie/alternative rock, because they were grandfathered in. Spin, Fader, Paste, things like that, that were also magazines that also have a huge web presence. Condé Nast went around and bought all those guys up. Motorcycles behind me. And I'm not going to name names, but like there's some websites that are just on the top and great, and just huge by their volume of followers or huge by their brand recognition. And then there's everybody else, and a lot of everybody else is people who are frustrated working for somebody else, who wanted to start up their own thing. And hats off to you all. There's room for everybody. I am also, like you, not a very competitive person. We are in the most competitive city in the world for this business.
We certainly are.
And neither of us are kind of cutthroat people. We know a lot of cutthroat people. We're not cutthroat people. I'm not. You're not. We wouldn't be friends if you were. You wouldn't be my friend if I was.
I don't feel that I have the patience to be that guy.
Yeah. Well, I will also say I have called out some of the bad actors in the community on my podcast that, 20,000 monthly people listen to. But like, Loudwire is not going to come blacklist me. Sorry. And nobody's going to come after me for calling out bad actors. But we're just, there's a lot of websites. There's a lot of people vying for attention. There's a lot of people trying to get to shows. There's a lot of people. And so again, 15 years, consistent through line of your work the whole time. You have made a lot of friends in the business. I never see you really leverage your friendships like a lot of other people do.
I try not to, because I felt that wouldn't be like well received, but I see where you're coming from, and it does happen.
Yeah.
I make a joke sometimes when I talk about stuff like that with people, because with my name, we were talking about the other sites, and those sites are still around. I should give them some credit. So it was, the Spanish site was called the Metal Circus, still is. I mean, the progressive site is Seat of Tranquility, and the other metal site is called Maximum Metal. I don't really get to spend a lot of time on any of them anymore, because I'm glued to my own admin panel, and I do check the Ghost Cult to make sure I'm up to date on stuff that I didn't see in my own email sometimes.
Thanks.
Because I think what people don't realize when they say, I'm going to start a website, is that it does come with a lot of demands. So I am a one-man show right now, and I sometimes have help, kind of like the Sith Lord and an apprentice. I have like one person helping me. Right now, there's only the Sith Lord. But they don't realize that it comes with hundreds and hundreds of email, and that you have to be on top of everything, and you have to make nice relationships and work with them and really do the best you can for them. If you don't do something, a publicist understands that you can't do it. They should, at least, I would hope. Not anybody can do every single thing. You need 100 people to do every single thing that comes into your mailbox on a daily basis. But it was a different time. And when I see a kid who, I don't like to discourage anybody, but when I see somebody who tells me that they've never written a thing in their life, but they want to join they want to start a blog or start a website, I said, that's not really the best idea. I said, maybe you should join someone else. And then they say, well, I'll join you. I said, well, you just told me you've never written a thing in your life. I says, I don't have time to curate anybody like that. But, you could send me something, and if it's great, I'll ask you to maybe send me a few more things. So there's a body of work that if I decide to bring you on as a submitter, it's not one post and you disappear, which, has happened to me in the past. It has happened. But again, it's a different lay of the land. And it's exciting still. I still enjoy it. That's the key. That's the key. So
Nice. I will also say, at the risk of sounding a little curmudgeonly, I also get occasional requests from people who I have kind of a teaching personality. My day job is digital marketing. I teach digital marketing to brands. I run digital marketing for bands and labels. I do some music PR as well on the side. So I have kind of a teaching persona. I taught college level social media metrics. At the same time, I'm so, like you, so busy running my own thing that I cannot hold hands and teach someone how to do what I need them to do to participate. So I have had people, I just bought a digital camera. I would really love to shoot shows. How do I get started? Not by call, not by emailing me, not by DMing me and asking me if you could work for me, especially because you didn't look and see that I already have several people in your city in some cases. That doesn't mean that that person's not good. That doesn't mean that that person might become great someday. And help is help at a certain level. But also, I can't teach a person how to write. I like somebody to come along that is a little experienced. And I can't teach somebody how to be a concert photographer. I've been doing it for over 10 years, and I'm good. I'm good enough. I'm not great. I've shot some great shows, and I made, maybe I like 15 photographs out of 100,000 I shot, but like maybe more than that. But
same here. Same here.
I like maybe 15 or 10 of them. I don't even really promote my photo page or my photo endeavors. I just fold them into Ghost Cult because it's just one more channel. I already have like 4 Instagrams and 2 YouTubes and however many Facebook business pages. Like, I don't need one more business to run like a business. All my photography goes on Ghost Cult anyway. So I feel you on that. I know it sounds a little cold. But at the same time, it's opportunity. If you want to get started in this business, I'm all for it. Like, go out there and write a bunch of reviews and send them around to other websites.
That's right. That's the way to do it.
I got pitched by somebody who was in a prominent band in the UK, where I have many writers, but that geographics for review writing doesn't matter. I still have a huge staff in Europe, huge, like 25 people still out of the original Ghost Cult people. Still some people around from then. The Netherlands, Benelux, and the UK primarily. A couple of people in Australia, South Africa, etc. So I had a guy. He was in a semi-prominent underground band, but well-known. Wonderful guy. Just recently, he's working on a solo career now. Left the band he was in, and just started to apply himself for his solo career. And some of the advice that we have been giving out in some of my music marketing work that's free online is go be a music. If you're in a band and you want to get more exposure for your band, become a journalist and write reviews and get known that way. It does help you. And people in the community will know your name. And when it's time for you to release some music, you can get help that way, because people are like, oh, he writes reviews. I know that guy. I see that name on Twitter, or I see that guy on Facebook. So he had started writing reviews for some other sites. And he said, well, I would love to, submit some stuff to you to see if I could write for you. And I had been aware of his writing for other sites, and it's pretty good. So I'm going to give him a shot at Ghost Cult. He's got some experience. He's also got a perspective, having been a working musician. So he has an angle for every review, because he's been in the music business for 20 years and had a pretty prominent band that he was a major member of. So it's not easy to break in. I'm not saying don't follow your dreams. If your dream is to shoot concerts, just be aware that it's extremely expensive, it's very demanding, and there's a lot of you doing it. And you need certain things. You need a portfolio. You need a place online for people to find your work. You need an Instagram that's not just pictures of you. You have to have, pictures of bands you shot, and maybe some promo shoots and some other things. And then the other thing is, realistically, to get into shoot shows, to get into cover shows, to get into interview bands, you have to be part of a publication. So that takes time to get aligned with someone else who will let you work with them. But yeah, I don't want to say there's a lot of websites just hiring people willy-nilly, because you have to be good. You have to be a little bit
right, of course,
somewhat talented.
Of course.
But so you've put in the work. Basically, this is like, people don't appreciate. I don't know what the lifetime number is on posts.
For me?
For Metal, do you?
What do
Got
you
to be
mean?
like
Like
tens of thousands, right?
which?
For Piercing Metal, is it like 10,000?
Post wise?
Approaching 10,000, right?
No,
Okay.
7,200. I just,
Okay. It's still an
it's,
enormous amount. Like, I know it, to put it into perspective, that's you know, 500 to 700 stories a year by yourself,
right. And that's not the photos. The photos, which I'm
right?
still in a massive mission of, I lost a hard drive and it had a lot of the old photos on it. So I'm in the middle of trying to get that back. But currently, the outlet has about 25,000 photos on
That's
it. That's,
incredible.
yeah. And
For one person, that's an incredible amount of shows covered. That's an incredible amount of photos.
it's pretty cool.
And I've been with you in the photo pit. You're not really a person that overshoots, and your photo sets are not like 100 deep. They're like 20 deep per band, sometimes less. So,
Get to the point,
again,
I was told, right?
sorry?
It was get to the point, right?
It's always get to the point. Tell a story, tell it succinctly, tell it well.
right,
Sometimes you need more words than others. I'm
right.
starting
Well,
to get into, like, for my whole career, I was writing these lengthy features. That was my favorite thing. And now I'm getting to the point where it's like, where can I cut out like 300 words out of this and just get to the goddamn point? Now there are minimums and, sort of requirements at my site for writing things, but like I'm starting to get to a point, not because I don't have the patience or the talent, because I want to say it in a better fashion than I used to. What I used to take 1,200 words to say, I want to say in 6 or 5.
mm.
That's just me now after all this time writing. What about in terms of your just writing or photography or just coverage, what are you focused on improving still to this day after all this time?
I still am. I just get into the run-on sentence because I sometimes write like I talk, and I can be very wordy at times. I'm trying to not be that guy in this little back and forth, but I can be very wordy, and I go on and on and on and on, and then I sometimes realize, oh wait, I said that already, but in a different fashion. So I got to take a step back after I'm finished with a piece, and I look at it like, okay, let's dissect this a little bit, chop this out, chop that out, and so there's that. So I think that's my shortcoming, but it's not a terrible shortcoming. Um, I see too many misspellings out there in posts. Not mine. I run everything through a check, and not on Ghost Cult either. But I see a lot of misspellings, and there's never any street slang jargon. Not a lot of expletives in posts. Like when you start a review with "holy effing this," and you writing that out on the web, I just don't like that myself. I will never do that.
I think you
I
can
have
say things. I think the
I,
internet age, the cell phone age, the social media age has dimmed us a little in terms of eloquence.
yeah. So now
And I try to get people out of, like, don't capitalize a word for effect. I would never, ever, like, capital, never, capital, ever. Like, you don't need to. Just write the words, and the reader will understand if you wrote it well. Bold is another overused thing. Too much punctuation is another thing. Again, not trying to be, I'm no elitist, Strunken White's elements of style is definitely at my hand at all times. But at the same time, here's an interesting story. I used to have a kid that used to write for me. And I say kid, he's a grown up now, but he was a kid when we started. And I was friends with him from the music scene in Boston. And he was like a real crust punk, gutter punk type of kid. He loved a lot of black metal, a lot of varied types of stuff. And he was a magnificent writer. And still is, just not writing anymore. But yeah, he kind of had this like Hunter Thompson thing happening, this very gonzo style of writing and reporting on things. And even interviews, he was like a very gangsta kind of guy. Like he would, like, I'm not a very confrontational interviewer, and you weren't ever. But this guy, not saying he was confrontational, but he didn't worry about being confrontational, which I think, you know, if you had one guy like that on a whole staff of other writers, that's okay. If the whole staff was like that, it's bad. So I would allow him to kind of just be himself, and some of the other editors and writers would be like, yo, what's up with this guy? He's like a complete outlier from the rest of the staff. He famously did one of the very first interviews ever with Death Heaven that they ever did. And he interviewed George. And George is a pretty, he's a nice guy, but he's also very serious about his art. And so this guy was asking him like very, not dickish questions, but just very pointed questions about black metal elitism. He was trying to get him to answer either, I don't care about the fans who are critical of us not being black metal enough. We're not tourists. Like, I don't need to prove how many bands that I like or what records are in my collection. Death Heaven is one of those divisive kind of bands. I think they're wonderful. I think George is amazing. But it was an interesting take. Like I didn't get any grief about running the interview, but it was very humorous when the audio came back, and I was like, why'd you go at him like this? Like, why that approach? And he was like, I don't know, it just seemed like, nobody else was, so I wanted to. So like for one person, I could allow that. But I think in general, the lack of quality writing, the lack of journalistic integrity, the lack of a work ethic is the nadir of our business,
Yeah, I guess I think what it all boils down to is I want the person that entrusted me with the time and the effort on their part to respect the product that comes back to them.
Surely.
You will get into fights sometimes with publicists. They won't like everything you say.
No.
And that's the thing. Are we supposed to change it after it's already run, or do we have to run it by them to show it first?
That's
and it's
not
like,
what's done.
That's right. So that's been interesting. So again, all of this was very different, dynamic. And one of the reasons I do not write in that style, like you had pointed out, is because I feel that I have a wide age range reading piercing metal. And that's probably stems from all of my conventions that I like to go to. People who have been watching the site know that I used to have a side blog called Piercing Metal Musings. And what Piercing Metal Musings was a WordPress thing. And I talked about comic books, some films, and I would take the stuff that was, so the website proper was all HTML programmed line by line by somebody who designed it. And that's how you did a website back then. But the side part of Piercing Metal was the WordPress blog, and I had a little more flexibility with it. One change did not require me touching 1,000 sheets of text and code. And fortunately, I'm an IT guy in real life, but that was a lot of work. And I loved my old design, but it was time to eventually move, which we did. But so when I started going to the cons, I was reaching a younger skew. I think kids as young as 14 or so are reading my website. So there's never really anything nasty on it in terms of language or suggestions, or it's almost always positive. I don't write bad reviews, and that's like a kind of a play on words. If I think something's absolutely terrible, I will respectfully decline doing it and instead pay mind to something that's extraordinary for the publicist who's working that same thing. Or if something is just not up my alley, I try to put myself in the head of the fan that's reading the article or the show review. That's just the best way, because if you load it up with negative stuff and you get on a platform that this sucks, that sucks, this sucks, I don't know. It's maybe that works today because everybody's a complainer out there. If you read Twitter, everybody's complaining about something.
Reddit, everybody on Reddit is happy, too happy or too mad.
It's just never been me. So,
Right.
so yeah, so that's where I stand on it. And, you know, when I eventually, as I should mention that the eventual blog went away and became part of the main content of the website. So it's all one big thing now.
Sure.
There's no two. There used to be two sides of the same coin. Now it's just one coin. So
yeah, that's fair. And again, because it's your voice and it's comes from your, you know, coming up from under the penumbra of Ken, you know, the you know, the cloud of Ken. It can be it's the Tao of Ken. It's your voice, and it can be, you know, multifaceted, and people are accustomed to seeing a variety of content. Before I segue onto something else, I definitely have to bring something up that is astounding to me.
Tell me.
So we have covered many shows together. One of the things that your site has been known for in the past was giveaways, concert ticket giveaways.
Yes.
You had a relationship with Live Nation for a long time, and certain venues still to this day, you know, favorable to you and, you know, like working with you. There's a number, I'm probably misquoting it now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You have given away over 15,000 tickets to concert?
That would be insane, right?
Oh, sorry.
I wish.
I don't know why I had that number in my head.
The number is more than 1,750.
Oh, still. That's
1,750
right.
or so.
Generally in the tri-state area. I don't know about outside of here.
Yeah. No, it's and it's mostly New York shows, and it's and it's important to measure that these have been relatively good shows. You know, like this is not so and so is playing Iron Maiden covers in Queens at 2:00 in the morning. This is I've given away tickets for Camelot, Sonata Arctica. What's that band called again? Megadeth.
Make me spit up my seltzer in a second. Sorry. This video is not sponsored by Polar Seltzer Water, but anyway, continue.
Purell sponsor. I always hang out the Purell. So, you know, Ghost, when Ghost was on their second Papa, I did a giveaway, and Ghost was untouchable at that time. Giving away, who else? Oh, him and Volbeat doing a show together. I gave away that. And
Volbeat opening up for him.
Volbeat opening up for him. Yeah, and that was the show. And that was just astounding. And
was that Irving Plaza?
No, it was on a venue that was only open for that one summer on the East River in Brooklyn. It was like a pier, and it was gone like the next time around. And I hated that it was gone because it was just so big and so amazing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the Williamsburg waterfront.
Yes.
I think that I saw both Primus and Faith No More the same summer there when Faith No More returned for the first time. So it's 2010, 2011.
Gotta be around then. Yeah. So those were cool giveaways to do. You know, I would have liked, I mean, my personal goal is to try to give away tickets for Kiss and try to give away tickets for Judas Priest, because those are two of my favorite bands. But again, despite
Are you wearing a Judas Priest shirt right now?
I am.
And I'm wearing a Kiss shirt.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm wearing my Rock and Roll Over shirt. It's a little holy.
I was figuring it would be predictable for me to have a Kiss shirt on, so I put on a Priest shirt.
I'm literally, I'll just crane the camera for a second. I'm wearing like the Rock and Roll Over shirt, which was my first vinyl ever.
So now it's interesting. It's interesting to say. So if we could talk about the contest for a little bit.
Please.
One of the things I'm known for is making the reader work for the ticket. I have done I've had fun with them. I always say, so if it's a double bill from hell, where it's like these two bands together, oh my God, I ask people to give me three things about each band. And then I say, oh, for an extra credit, even though there's no real extra credit, you either win or you don't. I come up with something else clever. One of my favorite ways that I've played with the readers' patience was, for instance, the band Nile. Nile has crazy, crazy song titles. So I ask them to create their own Nihilistic titles and
Well done.
tell me what the album is about. So
Nice.
and
Make them,
and
yeah, like, yeah.
and they've worked. They've done it, and it's been fun. And I said, and when I do this, I send these contests to the publicists who works the band, and they're curious, how do you get all these contests? I was fortunate to build a nice relationship with some of these places, and I tried to keep it positive and deliver. I know that a lot of venues are under pressure, and if they say to you, deliver the names by 12 on Friday, you don't deliver the names at 2 on Friday. If anything, you can give it the night before even. And that's also what I've done. If I noticed the show started to sell out, I've relinquished tickets back. I said, listen, I know the venue is selling this out. We have 6 names and you gave me 10 tickets. How about you take back these 4 tickets and we close up the giveaway now? And I think that works well with the team. I don't get to do as many anymore because now all of the mediums that I used to work with have their own mechanism, right? And with them having their own mechanism, there is less giveaways, and now, so they'll go to a major thing. But I still, every time, if I get another 100 tickets, I'm up to 1850. If I get another 200 tickets, I'm up to 1950. It's like, that's how it goes. I still gave away 1,750 tickets, and I love it.
I mean, that's incredible.
So,
That's an incredible number for any website. Like, just to put it into context, having
I
done this a long time, if you add up all my years working for blogs and websites, and I worked on some very major giveaways, and I had 2 major giveaways this year still in effect. It's a
yeah,
tremendous number of tickets.
it's a
I don't know
hoot
where I
to.
got 15K from, but sorry.
I wish. No, that would be nice. Maybe when my eventual son takes over this website.
Anakin Pierce.
Anakin Pierce.
Obi-Wan Pierce. Yeah, man. Again, and that's local for the most part, all local. And again, you're also at those shows. I have seen you
Yes.
interact with contest winners in person at the show. Are you Ken? Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, it's nice
Yeah,
to see.
that is a lot of
There's a
fun.
human face behind the site. It's not just some faceless person with an assumed name. Although people assume your name is an assumed name,
Well,
as we discussed.
I have done that, and there was one time somebody was like, I said, "Oh well, here's the card," and he said, "Oh, so you're Ken Pierce then?" I says, "Oh wait, oh no, no, you think that's a real guy?" I said, "That's not a real guy." I said, "There's about 10 of us across the country that hand out this same card. That's a fake name."
Right.
I
That's
think
good.
I told him like the next time I saw him that I was kidding around. He said
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure. He said he wasn't sure. It sounds like a fake name. Who knew? No,
Why do you think I have people call me Keefy? It's not just my childhood nickname. It's easier to remember than my horrible last name and my first name, like Keefy. It just, people know me as Keefy now. I started making it.
I like Keefy. It sounds
Yeah,
good.
it's short. Plus,
It
there's a
sounds,
rapper like every couple of years. He tries to buy my home Twitter. My home Twitter account is just Keefy. So there's a rapper who wants my handle, and I don't. I keep telling him, like, add a 0 to that offer, and I'll consider it. Like, I'm not gonna. I've had it since 2008. I'm not gonna give it up. the other ones, there's a lot of people who are Keith that get called Keefy, right? But like, I'm Keith at Keefy. It's not really where I get followed for music stuff. That's Ghost Cult Mag and at Ghost Cult Keefy, but it's funny still. Yeah, man, it is great to see you. I definitely remember a couple of things like the Fear the Riff Expo, where some of the contest winners found you during the expo and hung out with you, and
That was a lot of fun.
pictures of you with them, and you're who you are all the time, which is, I think, a real credit to you. A lot of people are putting on an act. They start believing their credits. They start believing who the fuck they are, Mr. Big Stuff, and you're not.
Well,
You're you. And I really
I can be. I have quite the boisterous sense. So maybe I should, just
I guess.
I'll be like what was that in Have You Met Ted? And I'll be like, have you met me? Nah.
Right.
I don't know.
What was that line at the beginning of Murder in the Front Row when Kerry King is time for his introduction? He's like, I don't have to tell you my name. You just look at me, you know who I am or what band I'm in.
Right.
You've never been that guy.
No.
Tonight, due to illness, the role of Kerry King will be played by Kerry King. You don't have that problem. So, yeah, but I like to see that. I've given out a lot of tickets outside of New York, so I don't always have the luxury of meeting those winners in person, but I try to carry that graciousness and coolness and kindness that I see from you into my online persona. And on occasion when I've, we've also been, both of us have been in scenarios where we've gotten a rare +1 and just gave it away.
Yep.
Especially to a sold out show. Which is just for no particular reason.
Yeah.
I don't need, first of all, it's frowned upon to sell a ticket you got for free, but in general, it's just good to give, it's just good karma to pay it forward. Like a lot of kindness is done for us as journos.
Right.
Like there's a
Right.
lot of stuff that's expected. There's a lot of relationship. You give me quid pro quo. I do something for you. You do something back for me. But it's nice to pay it forward when you can. We don't always get to, but when we can, it's nice. I see you do it. I see a handful of our peers do it, a handful of the dozens of peers. I see a handful who do it and do it well. So again, another hat tip.
I say my geekiness, right?
I see the rings.
I am double geeking it. I have a Green Lantern ring and a Legion of Superheroes flight ring on.
That's pretty cool.
I'm half metal tonight and half geek. So
that sums you up beautifully. To talk a little bit about the geek stuff. So in addition to 15 years, over 15 years now for Piercing Metal, Chronicles of Piercing Ken is approaching a decade.
That's correct.
And
that is correct.
I feel like outside of our little universe of music, Chronicles of Piercing Ken could be anything. It's very broad. When you talk about that generational appeal, the Chronicles site has a lot of it because heavy metal is in its 5th decade,
right?
And even though you like a lot of current stuff also, and there are a lot of modern bands you dig on, but when it comes to the lifestyle brand, let's talk a little bit about like how that started and what are sort of, if you had to give like a brief overview of what Chronicles covers, because I think people definitely know you from Piercing Metal, but maybe not quite, certain audiences may not know you as well from the other site.
No, they wouldn't. And a lot of the metal stuff, sometimes now, like I'll refer that Piercing Metal did something as a thing on Piercing Ken, but Piercing Ken came to life because I did not like using the social networks to post all pictures of stuff I did. So I went to a museum opening, let's say, and I wasn't going in as a press or anything. I was going to a museum that opened up an exhibit, and I took pictures of it, and I started on a blog spot with it. And one of our dear publicists, Liz, over at Ear Split, she always calls me Piercing Ken. And I thought I needed a name for the website. So I said, oh, I'll start the blog of Piercing Ken. And I put this up and I gave it a longer title, The Chronicles of Piercing Ken, to kind of go with my love of comic books and monster movie stuff. And it sounded a little more grandiose than it was. And this allowed me to share whatever photography work that was not a metal thing, and it didn't have to be on the still very new Facebook at the time. Like, I didn't have to put a gallery up, and I have friends that add everybody that says hello to them to their personal Facebook page. I'm not that guy. I don't even want to add some people that I've known some over the years now. It's just like, it's not, I don't like what it's become. So anyway, so to get off that soapbox, having a side blog let me put up all this other photography. Now content base was a tricky thing, because the idea of it was anything that I'm doing that's not a heavy metal or a Comic Con or a Toy Con event. That's it. That was the premise. So here's the metal stuff. Here's everything else. And some of the metalheads actually really like it, because they're older, they have kids, so they like that I talk about the family-friendly movies. They like that I'll go to the auto show. They'll like that I go to the food show. Oh, my wife's a master cook. She's going to love seeing all of these great things that you talked about on the food conference. And what's the other good one that I went to? Like the design show. That's a recent capture. But I have been able to work my way in as a press to these other events, because when you have 7,000 plus articles and almost 40,000 photographs on another website that's been online for X amount of time, it's easy to present to them and saying, well, this is my other voice. And they know that you come with a resume. So, oh, what are you going to do for us with this? Well, I'm going to list you on the calendar, and I'm going to come to the show a couple of days. I'm going to take 1,000 pictures and post them up. And so yeah, so that's it. And so getting to go to those events as a member of press is pretty cool too. And now I've expanded into going to museum presentations as a media, and I've needed things for other items I was working on, and I've only had to make a call and say, hey, listen, I need photos of this. Can I come in for a little while? Oh, sure, come on in. Just ring me when you're there. And I think it's because of the personality I've kept, and it's like you said, you give me kudos for that, which is very nice. Thank you. But I'll do that the same thing with everybody. I try to. It's you have to work on it, but I try to treat everybody the way I want to be treated too. I want to be respected. I want to be looked at as this. It's not always going to happen, but even if it doesn't happen, you still got to be that person, and you got to put out that energy, right? So, and that's just how it works. So, so Piercing Ken can be anything, and right now it is. I mean, I was going to go, I didn't want to talk about the virus time, but as we know, everything that we were all supposed to do is canceled. So for me, it's doubly bad, because I had an armload of lifestyle events lined up, and none of them are happening.
Right. In a given week, you might have like 6, like 3 or 4 convention days or, event days, and then 2 shows in any week.
Yes. Yeah. There was a time where one of the years of Comic-Con, I had Comic-Con during the day and a concert at night for every single night of the Comic-Con. Now, you lose energy by the end of Comic-Con. So I got from the last day of Comic-Con, and I think the band was Lacuna Coil, and they were playing Gramercy Theater. And I went into my friend's bar. I said, I need a drink. And I walked in, and she yelled from across the bar. She goes, how are you even standing? I can't even keep up with you. I'm getting tired reading all your posts because you're still going. I was like, I slept all of Monday. It was like,
You'd have
it
to.
was ridiculous. And then there are times where Javits has events, and at one point they had 3 conventions running, and I had all 3 conventions, and I was spending an hour here, going off to this one, spending an hour there, going to this one, spending an hour there, and then circling back and getting more stuff. And there's a logic to like we shouldn't double dip, so to speak, right? But this was 3 different vendors, and their events didn't require me to be there the entire time. So
I think
it's
for
like,
conventions and events, it's a little less stringent about the double dipping. It's definitely a no-no to double dip concerts.
yeah,
I
right. You
have gone
can't.
from concert to interview bands, and then gone to the other show and interviewed bands, and then come back to the other show to watch the show, or vice versa. But that's a little different. You're taking a ticket away from someone else. You are taxing resources that are limited. Whereas the convention world is a little more like they're happy to get any coverage they can, and you can get a lot done in an hour at the right with your personality and your abilities. You can get a lot done in a short span of time.
Right, and that's what I do, and I love talking about the convention circuit, and then, like I say, with events like the boat show and the auto show, I will promote them on that other website. On Piercing Ken has a calendar too, and the calendar is like miles different from what you see on Piercing Metal's calendar, and of course all of the YouTube channel for Piercing Ken is kind of slow because I really never worked with it, and I wasn't shooting any video for it. But I'm starting to build that up too when it's possible. But everything else does live on. It's got a Facebook, it's got a Twitter, it's got an Instagram. Much like Piercing Metal has all of those things, so does Piercing Ken. So it's because it's a professional medium. I'm going in as a valued asset to them. So I'm going to work on it like that. So, but yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to have it because it's an ever morphing thing, right?
It's never dull.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's impossible to get bored doing that. I'm gonna put on my Harry Shearer Simpsons announcer voice for a second, and also Wayne's World too. Be like, while you're here, make sure to like and subscribe to Piercing Metal on YouTube and ring that notifications bell, as well as the Chronicles of Piercing Ken YouTube as well.
Yeah. So are we done?
No, not at all. I just wanted to.
I thought that was a goodbye thing.
That is a good goodbye, but I thought it was a good time to mention it while people are watching still, to like and subscribe to your site.
Yeah,
we can hit that again in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna wind up soon. It's
yeah. I mean, I certainly don't want to bore anybody, but it's been fun. It changes every day. The dynamic of this and the scene changes every day, and I'm not some grand sage that knows all the answers. I just tell, like, anybody that really is a good person and wants to talk to me about it, I will try to give them some advice, but I don't want to always give advice because you can come off as a know-it-all, and I really don't want to be that person.
I do.
You do?
I kind of do. I don't though, but I do a little bit.
I think if you work for a website, your editor should be able to curate you as well as they need you to.
Right.
And that keeps you out of another editor's hell path, right?
Surely.
I don't.
You know what's interesting, man? I'm gonna touch on something that's a good way to sum up this whole chat and this whole thing tonight. So you talked about, Chronicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just that it sounds grandiose. I did a seminar last fall, kind of an entrepreneurial seminar, and I hung out with a real legend in social media and marketing. His name is Scott Monty. If you guys want to look him up, he's really the guy that pulled the auto industry into digital marketing and social media. And he did an entire presentation on storytelling for brands. And so Chronicles, indicates a thing that Scott was talking about that night, which is the narrative of the difference between a series and a serialization, right? Serials, like they used to be the old movies and television shows. A serial is a recurring thing that is a little bit different every time, but it's all under the same umbrella, and you kind of know what to expect, which definitely explains the Chronicles of Piercing Ken. And a series is routine. You're comfortable with it. You see it all the time. It has a narrative. It could be different from thing to thing, episode to episode, post to post, but it is all also under a certain umbrella, and it's a little more specific. And that explains Piercing Metal. And I think you're a really good brand storyteller for yourself. You're really good at curating and telling a narrative that people are interested in, whether it's music or lifestyle stuff. Because we do some of the same stuff overlaps, I'm fascinated with the lifestyle stuff. I've started to cover some conventions as a result of it, because there's a little bit of a crossover with, what I'd done with Ghost Cult Mag, but not everybody can do this. If everybody could, everybody would. They can't. So you have a gift for, again, telling a narrative that's interesting and compelling that people come back to. And yeah, man, just thank you and congrats on everything. And I hope
Thanks so much.
I hope we get a lot more.
I hope so. It's like, I tell people like this, it's very hard to build up the social networks, right? So I always tell people, if you like what we're doing, don't shout out Piercing Metal on your page. You have to invite your friends they'll act on that faster. I haven't figured out how to make Twitter work, but I only use Twitter as a feed. I used to, sorry, I'm fidgeting, everybody, because I'm sitting actually on the floor. I'm not on a chair. This is just my regular writing stance. So that's why I'm on the ground here.
You're very zen.
I'm very zen. But so yeah, I keep everything, very easy. I'm not starting fights on Facebook with anybody. I don't challenge their opinion. I will tease some of my responders on things if they get out of line, and that's just the way Facebook goes, But again, there's no soapboxing, there's no do this and that kind of stuff. I love using Facebook for Piercing Metal because I can get a lot done. So, if you do use Facebook, you really should like the page, not follow the page, just like the page, so you will help the numbers grow. And if the numbers grow, more people realize that this is a brand to work with. Instagram also, I'm currently using the quarantine time that we're all on to load up my Instagram with stuff I've posted on the website, but just never got around to putting on Gram. And so if you're a fan of the conventions I was talking about, you're going to want to go to Instagram and just bomb all of that stuff, because there's thousands of images
I liked a bunch of cosplay stuff today while I was.
They are so amazingly talented, these people that make these costumes. And
yeah,
I had the opportunity to tell a group of Deadpools that I was the world's worst Deadpool cosplay.
Nice work.
At last year's Comic-Con. And just so the readers know, I was like in my hat with the glasses and a Iron Maiden shirt, and that's it. There was no costume whatsoever.
Deadpool 3 coming eventually.
Deadpool 3 coming eventually, right? So yeah. So if you're doing any of the socials, and of course this channel, like Keefy did with that great announcer voice, YouTube is the key. And I said to Keith before he even suggested doing this, that this is not really my zen. I never viewed myself as the guy talking to you at home or anything, but I've been watching a lot of friends of mine do this, and they've been quite successful with their own channel. And So, it's time to dive into that neck of the pool and come up on the other side and just keep you all entertained. And believe me, I love that anybody pays attention to any of the stuff I do. There's plenty to come. Uh, Comic book stuff, music stuff, convention stuff, concert stuff,
Yeah, I hope we get back to it soon. I
Yeah,
feel like we're in a time right now that's in a limbo, and in the future we're going to refer to BC before Corona and AC after Corona.
it's a scary time, but as someone who's knock wood, not dealing with this as like no symptoms, no nothing. Um, it's our task to keep a focus and keep whoever decides to come to our selective outlets distracted. You know, um, my friend had 7 shows to go to. They're all canceled. Some are not coming back. Some are not announced yet, and they will be announced because it's going to have to happen with a bunch of them because they're too soon away from where we are right now. But that being said, this ride is still going. I think I have another couple of years in me to do it a little longer. 15 years is a lot. Maybe when I get to 10,000 posts, I'll wrap it up and say goodbye. No.
I mean, maybe there's a end point for all of us. Like I like to think that I
There
can do
is.
this forever, but I'm not going to be here forever, and I don't know the future for Ghost Cult if I'm not part of it, if I'm not alive for it. So I'm going to
Right,
try to stay
right,
alive as much as
right.
humanly possible.
Right. So I mean, we don't know what tomorrow brings, but it's like, and that's not to sound like a downer, but it's a lot of fun. And I mean, if you do have talent, don't take what we said before to as a bad thing. It's there are a lot out there doing this, and
Yeah, for sure.
the key is to use your talent and make it work for something else, and then you expand on it. Unless you're just out of the box extraordinary, which is
That's like nobody. Like, there's a handful of people in history. I'm a big believer in the Malcolm Gladwell Outliers book.
mm,
And not everything he writes about, but that book in particular has the theory of the 10,000 hours of woodshedding. You have to put in 10,000 hours of experience before you could even begin to be an expert. And there's just a lot of people who the desire to do something doesn't mean you deserve to, or doesn't mean you're just going to get to. Some people do get a red carpet rolled out for them. There are some brilliantly talented people. I'm very fortunate that I have a whole crew of people that I work with. Many of them are more talented than I am. I'm just at this a long time, and I'm very experienced as an editor. But there's some brilliant writers. There's some photographers that put me to shame. I'm competent and I'm sometimes good, but a lot of my people are incredible. But they've been at
yeah,
it a long time, a lot longer than Ghost Cult has even been around. So
right.
I don't think we came off trying to harsh people. I'm a big supporter of people in their dreams. Definitely ask me for advice. Just don't ask me to hold your hand while you learn how to do what you're doing and attempt to work for me. And I
Right.
think that's fair. I don't think that's being a dick. I think that's just being fair to. I got to be fair to me. You have to be fair to you. This is a lot of work. This is your passion and your dream, and you don't want to
Yeah,
have anybody sully it up
yeah. It's a ride.
or sully Erna it up.
Sully Erna it up.
Sorry,
Uh,
Sully. Not
it's
sorry.
it's a it's it's a it's a labor of love, and I welcome all to give us a look at, and if you don't like what you see right away, well, come back because I'm gonna bound to hit something on that you're interested in because I'm doing a lot of different things. Um, I, I I think the lifestyle side. This is the allergies and the beard starting to itch because it's getting warm, and I've already gone past my time with the beard. I usually get rid of it by the end of April. So, but so that's it, man. That's it. So, I mean, thanks, Keith, for wanting to talk to me and wanting me to have this. We're going to put this on the Piercing Metal YouTube channel, and I hope some of you watch it, and I hope some of you find it fun. And comment down below and click the bell and subscribe. That's the three things I watch. One of the main podcasts, vlogs that I like with all the geek stuff, and he always says that. And I don't have anything to give you, like a no contest to offer you anything for the subscribers, but we welcome all, you know, and I don't overpost, and I just think I try to have some fun. I've been starting to put up, I just learned how to do this, so I've just started to put up gallery videos from Comic Cons. And so you'll see, we saw last year's Comic Con just went up the other day, and I'm going to be working on the anime stuff too. I just got to work the video out the way I like it and then post it for everybody. So, but that's it, man. Thanks so much, Keith. I appreciate it. You know, I
Yeah, man.
appreciate you and your counsel and your friendship, and you know, it's a battle, and we sharpen the sword and we go out to the next thing. So that's how to do it.
It's a good way to end it up. Thank you, Ken, for your time. And again, everybody out there in YouTube land, have a good
Thanks.
night and peace.